Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the XCEL U podcast. We want to help you become the best version of yourself. We're very fortunate again today. We've got a guest, quite frankly, one of my best friends and one of my mentors, Brian McKinney. So, Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
great to be here.
Thank you. So, we're going to do our best to get through this podcast without having a couple of giggles. We've had an inside joke going the whole day. So, if we start to giggle, just forgive us a little bit here, but. Really glad to have Brian here on the podcast today for a whole host of reasons. How long have you been here in the area? I mean, you're from the Quincy area, right?
I've been here my whole life. I was born and raised in Quincy.
Yep.
Moved to Palmyra 24 years ago, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. But basically, I'm a Quincy guy. Married a Palmyra girl. I've been practicing 26 years. Somewhere in that range.
Yikes!
Yeah, I'm old.
We do call
the only good
Brian
thing
Grandpa.
is, I'm not Grandpa anymore because KJ is older than me. So let's get that straight, right? So 4 kids. Rager's 22, Ryley's 20, Ryan's 15. Excuse me. Renzi is 11, going on 21. God love her. We had First Choice for 15 years.
Yeah.
And we sold that. Denny and I did, and ATI bought us out, and fortunately, you came along and bought the practice last year.
Yeah.
So it's XCEL Physical Therapy right now, and seems to be doing great things. If you would have told me a year ago the staff that we would have put in front of us today, I would have called you a liar. But it's been great. I love it here. It's home. From pulling into the parking lot to leaving to the plinths, the tables, everything that's here. I mean, it's home to me. So
yeah,
I'm excited. I'm glad that you're here. It's been a great ride for the short amount of time, and I think there's great things to come.
Yeah, I do too. It was funny because as I look back on how all this started in 2011, I was your student. You were dumb enough to hire me in 2014, and I was dumb enough to leave the profession for a short time, and did some really cool things. Still doing some of those things, but I'm grateful. I was just telling somebody earlier today, I would not have jumped back into this opportunity if you wouldn't be involved. I wouldn't do it. So there's obviously a lot of admiration between both of us here. I don't want to speak for Brian, but hopefully there's a little bit coming from your direction too. But I think one of the things that we've got as a team, and especially between us, is trust. If I had to boil all this down to one word, to be trust. And I want to talk about that a little bit at some point, but kind of in your own words to start this off, Brian, like how would you, I've asked this in previous episodes of KJ Whitaker, Mitch Thorson, some of our other clinicians. In your own words, how would you describe the word different here at XCEL?
I mean, I think in a nutshell, family, customer service, bending over backwards for the customer, and building relationships. I mean, at the end of the day, we are a private mom and pop PT clinic on an island. We're not in a healthcare system. Mm-hmm. We have to do the little things to make a huge difference, and that might be texting, it might be calling, it may be getting people in on the same day, seeing them on a Saturday, or they text you at 9 o'clock at night and they need something. And it's trying to take care of those people the best that we can. Mm-hmm. It's the golden rule, and no different than any other business. You would do, to others what you would want done to yourself or your family. Mm-hmm. So I believe firmly like that's how we treat people. And you're not a number, but if I can just put it around one word, I would say trust. Those customers, those patients have trusted us for years, and they're like family. We built relationships with those people, and their moms, their dads, their brothers, their sisters. Call us, text us, stop in. So, you just can't treat them like they're 10 other referrals coming through the door, because at one point in time, there weren't 10 referrals coming through the door. So whatever we had to do to try to get those people better and get and maintain results. And I think those patients that have been somewhere else, they will tell you it's different. I mean, we're definitely laid back. I mean, probably to a fault at some point in time, like it's
right.
There's borderline that, you probably need to be a little more professional at times, but it's fun. And I think they feel that, and they feel that we're genuine and sincere to those people, that you're not a number and we do care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. One thing I don't want each episode to become is just a talking point of how great Excel is, because we have things we can improve upon
Absolutely.
every day, not only personally but professionally. And so I don't want every episode to be like, oh, how great we are here, because we have things that we want and we need to be better at, no doubt about it. But I really appreciate it. Again, I was telling somebody this earlier. Not only would I not be involved in this if you weren't here, but the culture and the environment. I give you 98% of the credit for being able to build that, because I've seen you do it for 12 years straight. That didn't happen overnight. I'm sure it took time. But I'm going to throw you a bit of a curveball here. How has PT changed from when you first started? Okay, and also talk about this for a little bit from the business perspective. You talked about the golden rule. To me, that's business 101. I don't know that we get taught that, but that's really just taking care of people. But I want you to talk about, how has the profession changed? I asked this to KJ Whitaker. How has it changed, and how has the business changed? Because even since the last 9 years since I've been a PT, the business has changed dramatically. So can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think two things. First off, from a business standpoint, I mean, reimbursement is less and less.
Yeah.
So I think consumers are smart, so they want value. So
Right.
you have to provide value, and if they don't see value in what they're providing, then they're not going to come see you, or they're not going to participate in PT. So again, coming back to you've got to get results. So what we used to do in physical therapy, I mean, we don't, in my perspective, we don't do a lot of those. We don't see us doing ultrasound or iontophoresis. We're going to break you down and figure out where you move well or don't move well, and whether you're weak or what you need to work on, and figure out a game plan from that aspect. We don't do as many passive treatments as we used to do. We still do a lot of soft tissue work, or there are passive things, but we don't do ultrasound ionto like we did previously. So that's kind of thrown out the window. And from a functional standpoint, I mean, I think that's changed a lot with the functional movement screen and watching how people move, and can we make you a better athlete? And you might be a weekend athlete, maybe not necessarily you play at a local school or college, but looking at it from a functional standpoint, I think from a business standpoint, the problem in healthcare today is you got to see 50 million people in order to make money.
Right.
And there's times that we do that, but I think the difference is we work as a team. I mean, I don't feel like it's individual, and I don't feel like there's a hierarchy of therapists. Even we had assistants and trainers that were here, and we still have some of those people. There wasn't a hierarchy, so to speak. If we thought there was one person that was good at doing something, we would focus or put them towards that person, because again, you got to get that person better. It's not about who's better at what. It's about that customer service and that patient. So, looking at it from a business standpoint, it's harder to do today.
It is.
I mean, in the cash aspect of it is, I think the consumer, if you get a huge deductible, and we try to explain to those customers that, hey, you're probably going to get this bill in the mail, you're probably better off doing cash. You're going to get more bang for your buck. And if we can explain that and let them understand that, oh yeah, this makes more sense, I feel like that's changed a lot. So we do more cash-based services now than what we did before. Yep. We definitely send more people downstairs to XCEL in the basement, and if people don't know what XCEL is in the basement, we have certified strength and conditioning coaches that are an arm of us. I mean, I'm being honest, I learned from those guys just as well. They're very highly trained. They do a great job. So sometimes we see them less in the clinic to try to save them money, and it's cheaper to go do the downstairs part than it is in the therapy part of it. But we work back and forth to figure out how to make it work for that customer. Yeah. So I think that's changed. I think their level of autonomy and what they bring to the table has really gone up as well. I mean, if you look at what we did at XCEL 4, 5, 6 years ago compared, XCEL downstairs, the performance and health side of it it's gotten so much better. Meaning their skill set is, it's close to what we're doing, if not higher, depending on what we're doing.
Which is good. 'Cause think about this. How much better does it make us as clinicians?
Absolutely.
Makes us be, but it's no different than competition is a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
In any environment, in any market. Your guy, you're wearing a Michael Jordan sweatshirt today.
Yeah.
He was...
GOAT, by the way.
Yeah. Greatest of all time, in case you know what GOAT means. Okay, it's not LeBron, according to Brian. But think about that for a second. He was constantly driven by the desire to be the absolute best. Okay, competition. He hated it when he lost, right?
Absolutely.
And I think there's an element of that we've lost as clinicians. That's when, if I was asking myself the same question, how has the business changed? How has PT changed? Yeah, the reimbursement's down. I 100% agree with that. We see that every single day. But I see the competition. Now we have social media. We have things like this, podcasts. I mean, you can get all your information on your phone within 5 seconds, right? There's competition out there, and we have to be better. So I don't know if you can comment on that.
Well, I think bringing better clinicians on.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, KJ's helped me a ton already in the last couple weeks. Mitch has showed me different things. You've showed me different things. I think access to information, I look back and I'm not a tech person, but I do use Instagram. Like, I can learn a ton on a different diagnosis just by looking through Instagram.
Right.
And it helps me as a clinician versus going to seminars before you had to attend somewhere and you would get a book and you'd have to do so many hours. So social media does drive it. But again, I go back to the value, customers are going to come see what the value of what you're bringing to the table. Yeah. And we steer people sometimes, hey, go look at this on social media. Go. Here's another avenue that you can help, hip mobility, become more athletic, whatever it may be. We use those tools as well in the clinic to say every day for us to learn from and to send patients to give them other ideas, because there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, there is. So it's a good transition there. One of the things I wanted to highlight today with Brian was when I think of actually getting somebody better to go out back into the real world, functional stuff. I've never met a better clinician than this guy sitting here, than Brian. I think that's one of the ways that you've been able to separate yourself, not just the relationship building. I mean, you generally care about other human beings. That goes without saying. But the functional aspect, I think, of what you do is not your typical PT. That's changed over the years, because when I was here as a student, you did a lot of functional stuff back then. You were doing FMS, functional movement screen. You were doing all sorts of stuff. But you've even transitioned from those days, and that's been pretty cool to see now that I'm back here. And I just honestly, I thought part of me was, I'm going to see Brian. He's going to be doing the same stuff as he was 12 years ago, functionally, because we're working with one human body. But you've continued to adapt at the age of 47. You're learning more new things. Yes, I did throw your age out there. You're learning new things now, even at the age of 47. So I wanted you to speak to clinicians here a little bit, other PTs out there that might be listening to this episode. Speak to them from the standpoint of, don't get caught up in the cycle that is the big healthcare system. You're a number. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Can you speak to that a little bit?
A couple things. From a functional standpoint, you ask me, like, how's it changed in 12 years, and you see different things today. First off, social media again, learning.
Yeah.
During COVID, you couldn't go do anything, but I think social media has driven me to learn different things. It's pushed my envelope. My son Rager's like, you need to get on your dad. Well, at first I was like, this doesn't make sense, but I learned real fast. There's a lot of things on there that I can learn from. Secondly, downstairs. I have treated downstairs quite a bit, and being around.
So when you say downstairs, XCEL Performance Health and Wellness.
XCEL Performance Health and Wellness. For anybody that's looking to train, get stronger, move better, have less pain. It's kind of similar to what we do, but our mindset's the same as a company. Going downstairs with Chris, interacting with Cam, and watching those guys go to work every day made me a better clinician. Makes me think about, I can do this with this type of patient or that type of patient.
Right.
So it's driven me and made my focus a little bit different. And they pushed me. They pushed me to become a better therapist. Thirdly, I think having kids involved in athletics when they get hurt has pushed me. To make my kids get back quicker. They have sprains, strains, whatever it may be. It doesn't look good if your kid's not. I hate to say this, but if you need to get your kid back on the floor or court, if you can't fix them, then why are you coming to us? Or if you can't fix yourself, why are you coming to us? Right. Is the way I look at it. The last question you ask, how to not be caught up in the healthcare system. A lot of places don't have a workout facility like we have in the basement. They don't have kettlebells. They don't have squat racks. They don't have a turf to run on. They don't have, plyo balls. So how do you get a kid stronger? How do you make kids faster? How do you get them back to doing X, Y, and Z if you can't load them? And so sometimes you have to look beyond that box and be like, you know what, we just don't have the equipment or we don't have the space to get you from point A to point B. And I think that is a benefit that we have here is we take them downstairs and train them. You and I were downstairs half hour ago looking at different things, talking to some different kids, working with some different athletes. And I do think that's very important. So, you know, if I'm an area athlete and I'm looking and I've had an ACL or I've had a different type of injury, I would look around there and be like, is this place really going to get me from point A to point B? And if I only have 20 visits that I can get that knee better in or my shoulder better in, you know, is this the right place for me? So I think being outside of that system, you know, outside the box, I think we're providing that. I think that's something different than we do than most people. So the value of having both of those entities, one on top of the other, and being able to take 2, 3, 4 clinicians and say, look at this person and tell me what you think. Give me your 2 cents. And working as a team brings a lot of value to the customer. And
It does, yeah.
I think that separates us and it keeps us from being cookie cutter or in the box, so to speak. And, you know, we do treat a lot of athletes and we do see a lot of higher level functional athletes, work comp patients, whatever it may be. And I think that's the benefit to having that here. So,
yeah, no, that's good. So as we start to wrap up today, I want you to, and this might be a little controversial, and that's okay if it is. I think one of the things that we both have talked about, we want to get out of this podcast, is to be real and to be genuine. It's no secret that in our profession in physical therapy, that there are clinicians leaving in droves, right? Now, there's a multitude of reasons, and I'm going to say the 3 main reasons I think that's happening real quick, and I want you to comment on that. But I want Brian McKinney to speak to, again, the PT that's listening to this, and I want us to get a little more specific. How many people do we come across on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis? They're a PT, and we hear they're either leaving or they're not happy where they're at, right?
Absolutely.
And that's no disrespect to the places that they're at. That's just it's the profession as a whole. This is a nationwide issue.
It is.
People are frustrated when they sit out in the waiting room just as long or longer than they actually get to see their medical provider. Okay, and they get the EOB, the bill in the mail, and they owe $300 for 2 minutes of attention. That's a problem. That's not quality.
It is.
The 3 main problems that I see, and you can agree or disagree with this, though, is number one. The relationship between the employee and the employer is based around money. I'm going to talk about this more in a future episode. I'll expand upon this. But that's number one. Number two, the plan of care is dictated by an insurance company. We had a kid in here, 4 or 5 months ago. Ruptured his Achilles. High-level athlete. The insurance company gave me 6 visits to get him better. 6. Okay?
You can't do that in 6. What's wrong with you?
Here you go. So that's a problem. That's a significant issue in our profession. Okay, we are constantly fighting. And then the third, as you already mentioned, reimbursement continues to go down. So then a lot of people's solution to that is to go see more people. Well, quality starts to go down. There's only so many minutes in a day, right? So what I want you to do as we start to wrap here, speak to the clinicians out there that are like, man, I worked my butt off to go get my doctorate in PT or my master's or whatever it is, I don't want to leave this profession, but man, I am miserable. I'm working way too many hours. I'm not fulfilled. And I know my patients are not getting better, not because I don't have the skills, but because I'm in a system that is not for the patient. Can you speak to them?
Absolutely. First off, a great question. I think 30-minute slots for most patients, or 45, you can get people better in 30 or 45 minutes a lot of times, depending on what the diagnosis is, and especially if you have 3 or 4 other patients there. So I think the difference is for a clinician is if you could work in an environment where you kind of dictate your own schedule. And what I mean by that is you still have to see people.
Autonomy.
Right. And having the ability to work along other people that have the same mindset. So, if we all have the same mindset as the customer's number one, and we got to spend an hour and a half with that person versus 20 minutes, you got to spend an hour and a half.
Right.
Because they walk through that door and they're upset that they're not going to speak good about what we're doing, right? But as a therapist, and a lot of them are leaving our profession, is I do think that's one thing that I really enjoyed with getting it back is we have control.
Yeah.
We can control the controllables. We can control how long they're there. If we want to spend X amount of time, we spend X amount of time. Want to spend more time, we spend more time. But the bottom line is they have to get better. So the clinicians on the other side of the fence don't always have that.
No.
Because I know I felt it at times when I was working and I'm like, well, I want to do more, but I can't because I don't have enough help. I don't have enough another therapist that would not all of them, but some therapists that just we didn't work as a team sometimes.
We all have different skills and abilities. Yeah.
And it wasn't because they didn't want to help. They're not that they weren't good people, but it's because their schedules didn't allow it, and you got backed up. So
Right.
you got to get people and get people out. Well, especially if you're working in a small clinic, you get backed up. The log jam? Where do you put these people at? What do you have them do? Then they look at their bill and they're like, hey, I only did about 25 minutes of exercise, or only got a little bit of hands on.
Yeah.
So I think the ability to work through all of that speaks volumes to having the right mindset, being in the right environment, and I think clinicians that have been here so far have totally seen the difference. That hey, we're different from the aspect of you need help. What's it going to take? You know, a therapist on the other side of the fence sometimes they don't have that ability to spend as much time with a patient, or they're worried about getting notes done. I mean, I'm not going to lie, we have to get notes done, but that's not our number one priority.
No,
it's not. So,
yeah.
I hopefully I answered the question you were looking for, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole host of issues that clinicians are dealing with that they are leaving. It's not good for our profession.
No, that's what I want to end with today is, look, it doesn't do anybody any good if people are leaving this profession, because it's a very valuable profession to help a lot of people in a lot of different ways. It's ultimately it hurts the patients. That's who it hurts the customers. And that's what I hate to see. I think we've got some unique ways to fight those three problems. We'll go into that in a future episode. We got to do it. Right now, all this is words. We have to follow it up with action and actually get people better and do the things the right way. But Brian, this has been awesome. I really do appreciate you coming on board. Any last second things here you want to add?
I think it's been great that you've started the podcast, and I thank Jared for helping us, because we would have never gotten it off the table like this. I mean,
we talked about this for 9 months. Yeah.
Do we plug it in here? How do we turn it on over here? Because I'm not going to lie, I'm that guy. Sorry, I am. The vibe that we have is different this time around. Having younger clinicians, Mitch being here, you being here, KJ and I are the old guys. But to bring all that together and to feel the camaraderie and to feel the love from the patients that, hey, you guys are back. It feels great, to be back in this building and just to be ourselves. We have control, and I feel like there's times when clinicians don't have control or don't have the opportunity to do things they want to do because it's being pushed from top to bottom. I don't know. It's just been awesome. I thank you for helping me, getting me out of my rut. I was stuck in a rut, for a while. I didn't know what I wanted to do or how I was going to get there. But I would agree that trust and the talk and the communication all along has helped us. So yeah, it's been great.
No, it has. And we're both looking forward to what's coming up. A lot of great opportunities out there. So thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Please, if you got some value out of this, please like, share it, comment. It really helps us get seen by more people and ultimately be able to help more people. So we're going to sign off for today. And once again, appreciate you listening in.